Fantasy Baseball Bets and Picks presented by Prize Picks. JT Hayes with Run Pure Sports once again recording on a Sunday night for the Monday slate. Look, you know all about Prize Picks by now if you're subscribing to the Mayo Media Network like you should be. If you've liked these videos like I hope you will, and you understand that it's very simple, but if you're not already a member of Prize Picks, if you're not familiar with prizepicks.com, they're going to set a line. It's the fantasy point for a player. Over or under is your job to choose using DraftKings scoring. PrizePicks.com. Enter code MMNMLB. That's MMN, like Mayo Media Network, MLB, and you'll get a $100 deposit match. So, like this video, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network so you can see all of the content that we put out. Not just baseball, it's golf. It's a lot of golf, and I'm sure that if you watched the Mayo Media Network videos over the course of the last week, preparing for the U.S. Open, you did pretty god darn well. Over the course of this weekend in daily fantasy sports, it's baseball, it's basketball. We've got the playoffs. We're careening here towards the finals. Big game going on as I record this right now between my own Atlanta Hawks and the Sixers. Looks like it's going to be a good one towards the end. MMN, MLB, get a $100 deposit match and subscribe to the Mayo Media Network. Prize picks for the Monday night slate that I think we can take advantage of. The Houston Astros go into Baltimore to take on the Orioles. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this matchup a little later on. And I like the Astros here, but one of the guys that I like in terms of the line on Prize Picks and what we can perhaps take advantage of is Cedric Mullins, leadoff hitter for the Orioles. The over-under set at 7.5 fantasy points. Looks like Jake Odorizzi is going to be pitching for the Houston Astros. And, man, Mullins with 4 home runs over the weekend and also has stolen base upside. That 7.5 point Prize Pick total seems a little bit low. I think he can beat it. I think he can beat it in this matchup. So give me Cedric Mullins over 7.5 fantasy points. And then another matchup. This one I absolutely love. The Cincinnati Reds going into Minnesota, taking on J-Happ and the Minnesota Twins. Behind J-Happ, you have a bullpen that has been bottom 10 in Major League Baseball all year long. Has been lit up over the course of the last couple of weeks. And the line on Prize Picks for Nick Castellanos set at just 8.5, over or under. Give me the over on that pretty easily. I think Castellanos has a good chance to get one out of the ballpark at Target Field. In case things change, we've got a lot of information up on runpuresports.com and runpurebets.com. In fact, in our Discord, you may not know this, but you'll know it right now after I tell you, we've got a channel dedicated to Prize Picks. One of our contributors, one of our coordinators, Luke Guest, sets up that channel and puts out a number of picks all day long throughout the day, a number of different sports. So, once again, runpuresports.com, enter code RPSHeater25, get 25% off of your first month's payment. And if you're not subscribed yet to prizepicks.com, you need to do so immediately. Enter code MMNMLB, MMN as in Mayo Media Network, MLB, get a $100 deposit match. So regardless of what the reasons are, obviously the dynamic has changed in Major League Baseball with what pitchers can and can't use to grip the ball, to enhance the movement of the ball. But man, this was, for the most part, a home run weekend, and led by none other than Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, 5 home runs in this weekend series against the New York Mets. 3 home runs on Sunday. In fact, if you play daily fantasy sports on the main slate on Sunday and you didn't have Kyle Schwarber, you probably didn't cash at all, let alone make any money, because he was pretty much the entire offense on the slate. 5 home runs throughout the weekend. Just an amazing resurgence in Washington for Kyle Schwarber, leading the Washington Nationals, especially on Sunday. What about Cedric Mullins? We know that Kyle Schwarber hits home runs, right? He did this in Chicago, led off in Chicago for a time when Joe Maddon was the manager. Cedric Mullins is not a guy that prior to this season maybe we've thought about as a guy who was a power hitter, who was a home run hitting leadoff hitter, but hey, there's no doubt that he is. He seems to almost hit one every night. And this weekend in the series against the Toronto Blue Jays, 4 home runs, 2 home runs on Friday night, 2 home runs on Saturday in the game against Toronto, against some pretty good pitchers, and against a left-handed pitcher in Robbie Ray on Friday night. So Cedric Mullins, someone to keep an eye out for. Another guy, huge talent that I really like, and I've been pretty impressed with how he's developed over the course of the last season and a half. He hit 3 home runs on Saturday for the Baltimore Orioles. Ryan Mountcastle, just an amazing young talent. I mean, this team, this offense, yeah, we know about the pitching, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But, man, this offense, I mean, you talk about guys like Mullins, like Mountcastle, like Trey Mancini coming back from missing a season and beating cancer. Just an amazing weekend, not so much in the wins and loss category, but definitely in terms of the offensive production category for the Baltimore Orioles. And then Shohei Ohtani, I think we talk about him almost every Sunday when I do this video. Another 3 home runs this weekend. Another really good pitching performance against the Detroit Tigers. This guy is something special. He is probably going to be the odds-on favorite to win the American League MVP award, especially if he can propel the Los Angeles Angels into the playoffs, which is going to be difficult because the Astros and the A's in that same division are playing really, really well. I talked about pitching with Ohtani. A couple of other amazing pitching performances this weekend that we saw. We're starting to see these pitchers adjust a little bit to what they can and what they can't use. And Walker Buehler in Arizona against the Arizona Diamondbacks flirted with a no-hitter, took it into the 8th inning, 7 innings, 11 strikeouts in a 9-3 win for the Dodgers. Just an incredible performance for Buehler, who's been up and down to begin the season, like a lot of these pitchers have, but outstanding performance on Saturday night. And then turn back the clock. Adam Wainwright in Atlanta, in his home state of Georgia on Sunday afternoon. It was only a 7-inning game, but that's all Adam Wainwright needed to record 11 strikeouts, get the complete game win against the Atlanta Braves. Just a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde offense, really. They're either going to score 10 runs or they're going to put on this type of performance, which is basically be shut down. And that's no offense to Adam Wainwright, who did an outstanding job again on Sunday afternoon. It looks like Jacob deGrom is going to start the game on Monday. The Braves are heading up from Atlanta to take on the Mets in a doubleheader. It's a reschedule of a game that was rained out earlier in the season. deGrom, you followed the story. He pitched last week against the Chicago Cubs. 3 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts. He was absolutely dominant, came out because of a shoulder strain. And he's going to make his next scheduled start. Now, it's easy. And I've done it. The guys who subscribe to Run Pure Sports know that we've talked about the Mets and their history with injuries and the fact that they're not exactly forthcoming. But all kidding aside, this has to be an absolutely impossible scenario to manage. You've got a guy who is supremely talented, who I think, from a pitching and hitting standpoint, I think he's as talented as Shohei Ohtani. I think if the Mets let him hit every day that he wasn't pitching, he could, maybe not the power, I don't know about that, but I think he could certainly be as dominant. We've seen that when he starts and gets his at-bats, and he says he's healthy. The tests say that he's healthy. Everything looks fine, except you get into the games and he reaches a certain point and something doesn't feel right, and he does the right thing and he takes himself out. I don't know what exactly is going on here. I'm hoping it's a lot of nothing because I want to see him pitch for the next 10 to 15 years. I want to see this team compete. But you have to be a little bit concerned, and if you're playing daily fantasy sports, you have to be a little bit perhaps grateful that he's not on the main slate, because it would be a really difficult decision as to whether or not to roster Jacob deGrom in a matchup against the Braves, who are known to strike out against right-handed pitching, who he's done well against. He does well against everybody, let's not kid ourselves, and who are coming off a doubleheader. Luckily, on the main slate, we don't have to worry about. As baseball fans, we hope that everything's good with Jacob deGrom. I'll be watching this start. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be watching this start as well. And let's hope that this is nothing more than just a series of coincidental scares. So with the Mets playing the doubleheader at home against the Atlanta Braves, no Jacob deGrom on this Monday slate. It's a 6-game slate on DraftKings, but it's got a pretty interesting mix of talented pitchers. You've got Yu Darvish and Julio Urias going against each other in San Diego. You've got Aaron Savali and Adbert Alzolay going against each other in a matchup with the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs. But one of the pitchers that stands out to me, and it's surprising to say this, but the San Diego Padres have just not been good against left-handed pitching. Julio Urias for the Dodgers, they go into San Diego. He's 9.1 on DraftKings. So 6 recent starts of left-handed pitchers against the San Diego Padres. 3 by Austin Gomber. Absolutely, you could even call them dominant performances. 2 by Joey Lucchesi, former San Diego Padres player and farmhand. Pretty good performances, and even on Friday night, they mustered almost no offense against Wade Miley. I'm not sure exactly why they're not doing well against left-handed pitching, but those 3 guys don't have nearly the arsenal that Julio Urias has. And Urias coming into San Diego at 9.1. Look, these games can tend to go one way or the other. They can tend to be really, really tight performances and close games where the pitchers are the dominant ones. And this is a matchup where I expect that we're going to see that. Or they can be absolute offensive blowouts. But with Urias and Yu Darvish on the mound, I think this game stays pretty close. I think that Dave Roberts has had a little bit better of a leash with some of his starting pitchers, especially when they're doing well. And I expect Julio Urias to do pretty well here tonight against the San Diego Padres. Just 9.1 on DraftKings. We're going to need, if we're not going to stack him and you, if we're not going to go down to the mid-range with either Alzolay or Aaron Savali, both of whom I like quite a bit, there is a pitcher quite a bit lower that I like quite a lot on this slate, and that's Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson has been absolutely outstanding this season. He takes on the Oakland Athletics. Definitely a difficult matchup, but a matchup that he's done well in before. Keep in mind, this is Monday. This is travel day. Teams are traveling on Sunday night. We see a little bit less scoring on Monday nights from these offenses, and I think Kyle Gibson is just probably maybe $3,000 too cheap on DraftKings at just 6.3. They're at home. They're going to be in that big stadium with the roof closed, almost undoubtedly in Globe Life Field. And I think that Kyle Gibson at 6.3 against the Oakland Athletics is a pretty decent play on this Monday night slate. He takes on Frankie Montas. And to be honest, again, this is another game where I think you're going to see a more interesting pitching matchup than you are an offensive matchup. So Julio Urias, 9.1 against the San Diego Padres, and then Kyle Gibson, just 6.3 on DraftKings against the San Diego Padres. As far as offenses, I'm not going to look to any of those parks for offenses, but I am going to look to one of the hottest teams in baseball, regardless of hand of the pitcher, and one of the best hitting teams in Major League Baseball, actually the best hitting team in Major League Baseball, against left-handed pitching since the beginning of the season. The Houston Astros, they head into Baltimore. They take on Keegan Aiken. And Keegan Aiken is a talented guy, but we saw with Dallas Keuchel on Sunday, really the only left-handed pitcher that's been able to keep the Astros somewhat in check has been Carlos Rodon, and no one is ready to compare Keegan Aiken to Carlos Rodon. So this is a stack that I really like. Once you get past Keegan Aiken, you get into that Baltimore Orioles bullpen, which been a little bit better lately, but definitely has some offensive firepower against it over the course of the last couple of weeks. And I like this Astros team a lot. There's, of course, you can go 1 through 9 when we talk about playing Astros against left-handed pitching. But a couple of guys that stand out to me in terms of talent, batting order, and price points. We'll start with Jose Altuve. Just been an absolute monster over the last couple of weeks. He is priced up 5.5, leading off second base in this matchup. But a couple of guys a little bit lower priced. Chas McCormick, 3.1 in the outfield, usually hitting second in this matchup against left-handed pitching. I like him a lot here. And then a guy who, since Alex Bregman has gone on the injured list a little bit less than a week ago, has just been absolutely outstanding. He hit 2 home runs in a game. I think it was on Friday night. It's Abraham Toro. He's just 2.1K in this matchup. That is too cheap for a guy that does what he does to left-handed pitching. So I like the Houston Astros a lot in this matchup on Monday night. Second team I like, man, J-Happ is back in our lives, and this has not been a great season for J-Happ. He's struggled. He struggled mightily. He's priced all the way down, but I still don't trust it against the Cincinnati Reds, who go into Minnesota, and these guys have some interesting prices. Keep in mind also, Minnesota's bullpen, very, very bad. Very, very porous over the last few weeks, really over the course of the season. And I like some of these Cincinnati Reds here. Leading off with Nick Castellanos at just 4.5, Eugenio Suarez at 3.9, and even Kyle Farmer at 2.9. I think the Cincinnati Reds and the Houston Astros, pairing them together is possible, especially if you go down to Kyle Gibson and pair him up with Julio Urias, or even if you pair him up with Aaron Savale or Adbert Alzolay. It's going to be cool. The wind is going to be blowing in Chicago, where that game is going to be played. I think that's easy. I think the slate is a little bit easy, which makes me a little bit nervous because maybe it's not so easy. I'm missing something, but that's where I stand here. Houston, Cincinnati, Julio Urias as my top pitcher, and then Kyle Gibson as my cheap pitcher that I think is going to do well. And you can go to the matchup in Chicago to look at Savale or Alzolay. A couple of bets for the Monday night slate. Not a lot of lines out right now. I am recording this on Sunday night, but a couple that I would jump on right now as soon as you see this video, if I were you. I think there's some value in the Houston run line, -1.5 at -108. I think that is a decent line there for this matchup. Houston, again, going into Baltimore, taking on Keegan Aiken. And then the under in the Oakland and Texas game. I talked about how I like Kyle Gibson, talked about Frankie Montas on the other side of this. Under 8 runs, -103. I do think there's some value here. We tend to see lower scoring games. I think it was 6 runs scored in the game on Sunday. But again, a lot of this can change. My feeling on the stacks, I don't think it will, but that could change. I may decide that I like 1 or 2 other pitchers a little bit more than Julio Urias. Probably won't decide I like anyone more than Kyle Gibson. But that's why, if you're not already a member of Run Pure Sports, runpuresports.com, runpurebets.com, you should come on over. Join us, join the movement, enter code RPSHeater25. You get 25% off of your first month's payment. We'll have a playbook up for the baseball slate on Sunday night. We'll actually have a playbook up for the showdown slates for that doubleheader that I mentioned in New York. And we have playbooks for the NBA showdowns as well as golf. We've got multiple shows, live shows every day, every sport. And the bet side has track bets. They'll take you through what the best values are. We even have a section, a channel, if you will, in our Discord dedicated to Prize Picks, the sponsor of this video. And we go through all day long, all different sports, what we think the best lines are, how to navigate the world of Prize Picks if you're not familiar to it and already a subscriber. Once again, on runpuresports.com, enter code RPSHeater25. I'll have a core up. I'll have a slate strategy up for this MLB slate tomorrow night. Good luck in your contests, and run pure.